everybody, Madison here with Health by Ratio, and in this video, we're going to be covering two of my team and my favorite exercises for the core that translate functionally to rebalancing us in how we walk and we run. So we're working on our gait here to get our body symmetrical and stable the ways that we should. And for those of you that don't know, like I said, my name is Madison. I'm the founder of Health by Ratio. My team consists of licensed physical therapists, orthopedic movement specialists, functional health coaches, and myself that work together as a team virtually with our clients to create holistic programs that start by taking them out of chronic pains and recurring injuries and getting them stable and moving into full ranges of stable motion again. So we help them on that kind of holistic rehabilitation process. And then we bridge that gap to whatever their active goals are, whether that's fitness related, athletically related, or whether they just want to get back to being able to enjoy long walks or hikes with the dogs or play with the kids and all that good stuff. So that's what we do. Our whole mission is to get our clients in control of their own health and allow them to maintain this for life. And so one of the things that we do with everybody, whether it's a client or just the people that I connect with on the free video assessments that we offer, is walking gait analysis, and for our clients, running gait analysis if they're a runner, when they're ready for it. But walking gait analysis is massively important because it's something that's missed so often in rehabilitation processes, because we often maybe a physical therapist, whether we're covering from a serious knee injury or surgery, or maybe chronic lower back pain, or maybe it has to do with our feet and our ankles, or maybe something going up at the thoracic spine or shoulder girdles or neck. Often we go through a certain type, maybe physio or chiropractic work or whatever, and we might walk up and down a hall or walk on a treadmill, and our PT or our chiro or doctor or whatever, they might look at us for a couple of minutes and say, yeah, you're not hobbling, you're not doing a big limp like you were 6 weeks ago, so you're cleared, you're good to go. But they don't necessarily look at us with a fine-tooth comb. And so a lot of times people will feel like, I just feel out of balance. I don't feel symmetrical when I'm walking, especially when I'm running. I don't know what it is, but I know that something's off. And one of the most common things that is prevalent that doesn't necessarily get picked up unless it's done with a really fine-tooth comb, like the person is really staring at the hip position the whole time, or even better is done over video where you can watch it frame by frame and go slow motion and see any subtle adjustments, is hip drops as well as an asymmetrical hip throw. So meaning when we step often to one side or both, we'll drop the hip where the pelvis isn't staying neutral, we drop to one side. This puts torque on the whole body from head to toe. Sometimes it'll show up in the knees, sometimes it'll show up as plantar fasciitis, sometimes it's going to show up as a sciatic nerve problem. But this is one of the linchpins that aggravates the body, and it's just where our own weak link in the chain is where it's going to show up. The other, though, is an asymmetrical throw of the hips, where we step and we'll have one hip that we throw out like crazy, and the other hip is kind of neutral, and then we throw one hip. So we over-rotate to one side and we favor it. Well, that stems from potentially some mobility restrictions, like we might have some asymmetries, maybe one ankle or one hip or one side of the thoracic spine or one side of one shoulder is tighter than the other. So it's causing us to have this kind of asymmetry as we're walking. But it also stems from some core weakness, some functional core weakness. It's not stabilizing the way that we really want it to. So that's where we have these two exercises that we're about to do. This can be done with a couple of resistance bands, lighter. Typically, we're not going to go super heavy with this unless we really get strong around them, or with TheraBands, that kind of thing. And one's going to be an anti-rotation. That's what I'm going to cover first. And the other one is going to be a farmer's carry that we're going to do with a resistance band, which makes it really hard. So an anti-rotation is essentially where we're going to anchor our resistance band to about chest height off to the side of us. And then we can do this in a couple of different stances, but I'm going to start off with a neutral stance. So I only have about a 6-inch space between my feet. I'm going to have soft knees here, and I'm going to try to wake up my glutes. So I'm going to think about kind of screwing my hips into the ground. You'll see my knees moving out a little bit as I do so. I feel the arches of my feet pop up. I'm not sliding my feet to the side. I'm just kind of screwing the hips in. I'm squeezing my butt cheeks, so I'm waking up my glutes. Then I'm going to get my hands so that I stretch this band to where it's just centered in front of my chest. And now all I'm going to do is pin my shoulders back and straighten out my elbows and pull them back in. My job is to fight that rotation. Obviously, this thing is pulling and trying to get me to rotate. I am engaging my core as I straighten out the arms and come back in the whole time to keep my obliques stable, and I'm not letting this thing win. I'm keeping my hands in alignment with my sternum. Now, it's really important that the shoulders stay back the whole time. As we press those arms out, it's very easy to not just straighten out the elbows, but to also protract the shoulders. We do not want to do that. We want to keep those shoulders pinned back the whole time, and all we're doing is straightening out the elbows and pulling in. So that's a neutral stance. And like I said, we're soft knees, the hips are kind of back on the heels, and we're screwing those hips in, squeezing those glutes as we go in and out. The other variation we can do is a staggered stance, which obviously this is even more applicable to walking and or running, but it's also a little bit more challenging. So this is kind of the next step. You get into a staggered stance, and we can play around with the distance if we'd like. Pull those shoulders back. Same thing, I'm going to screw that front hip into the ground, squeeze that glute, and I'm going to go in and out of these anti-rotations, these presses, keeping the shoulders locked the whole time. I can also switch inside foot forward, outside foot back. Same thing. And obviously, I would do about half my reps with one leg and half the reps the other, and then I'd want to face the other direction and work the other side of my body. We will often find that one side of the body is going to be significantly harder than the other. Whichever side's harder, go slower on that side and see if you can get a few extra reps on that side. Try to work on the weak side to get it caught up to your strong side. That'll help you with this asymmetrical walking gait or running gait that you're dealing with. Next, we have a farmer's carry. Now, a farmer's carry, this is essentially holding weight in one arm and then going for a walk. That's what you're doing. And the goal is when you do go for that walk, if I'm holding onto that weight like a briefcase, is I want to keep my feet in alignment with each hip. I don't want to walk like I'm on a tightrope as I'm going through. And I want to fight the tendency for me to lean away as I'm carrying that thing. I want to keep my body as centered as possible. Now, if that's like that can be done with the free weight, it's a great exercise. The kind of very regressed version is just getting in place with your feet directly underneath each hip and keeping everything centered and marching up and down and just trying to control the body as best you can with a knee drive. That's another variation of this, obviously very regressed, but you're focusing on glute activation. It's a good starting point. Now, another way of doing this that is really effective is with a very light resistance band. A light one goes a long way. Is we stand off to the side with this thing pulling me down toward like kind of knee level, ankle level, something like that. And I'm going to get myself so that I'm in my nice neutral stance. I'm going to squeeze my glutes here. I'm going to engage my core. I'm going to pull my shoulders back. And now I'm going to do that same idea. I'm going to pick up my leg, set it down, get it in alignment with that hip, pick up my leg, set it down. Now, what you're going to find is when you pick up the outside leg, this is much easier. When you pick up the inside leg, it's very tempting to lean away from it or to shoot the hips away from it. The goal is to try to keep yourself as centered as possible. Even I'm still moving a little bit with this. I'm trying my best. I'm engaging that core like crazy to keep myself stable as I pick up that inside leg. The outside leg picking up, this one's relatively easy. So we work on that inside foot a little bit more. That's our big focus. And we obviously do this to both sides. One side's going to be more challenging than the other. If you go to a gym, you can do this also with a cable machine. Just get really light with that cable machine, like 2.5 to 5 pounds kind of thing. Goes a long way with that thing pulling you down and back. But these two exercises help us stabilize the hips so we don't have that tendency to drop when we're walking, and also helps us stabilize our hips so we don't throw one hip further forward than the other. Now, guys, if you want some free help on this, if you'd like to get your gait analyzed and understanding what is causing you to have the imbalances, whether it's mobility restrictions, whether it's weaknesses like we just talked about here, and what to do around getting yourself moving back to full range and stable motion, we'd be happy to help. Feel free to message below or click the link below this video to see our calendar and schedule up a time and day that works best for you, or feel free to comment and ask any questions and we'll be happy to help. Talk to you soon.